Hi, it's me. I have this really pretty layered paper art that I would normally glue together each piece or use foam tape in between each layer. But because there's very detailed lines like this, I've decided that I wanted to just straight glue some layers together and then put foam tape in between other layers. So this cut file I downloaded and purchased from Cutleaf SVG. If you like it, I'll put a link down below and you can download it and assemble this project yourself. It's really pretty and it was used as a gift that I gave to my dad. Right here, what I'm doing is I'm just showing you the different layers that I want to glue together versus all the different layers that I want to use foam tape in between. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am going to be using Barely Arts Cubies as the foam tape and then Barely Arts glue and this makeshift brush for all the gluing layers. So for this first layer, I decided that I wanted to use foam tape so that it's a little bit lifted off that bag cardstock. So I'm going to use the Barely Arts Cubies. It's called Cubies, but this one is a strip, and I love their foam tape because it's nice and sturdy. You can use an X-Acto knife or non-stick scissors to cut them, and they work just as well. And I'm going to place them in areas where I feel like are going to sink down. So since this is the very back layer, most people will not notice it, but they will notice the slight shadow that it creates once it's glued down onto the back piece. So now I am here peeling off the backing, and then I'm going to stick it down. Now you'll notice that as I'm trying to stick it down by eyeballing it, I'm having a really hard time lining it up. A tip that I have to help get these lined up easily and more quickly is to use the actual frame that you're going to put it in or a right angle. So I slid the bottom piece in the back, and then now I'm sliding this piece up and just lining everything up to that upper right hand corner so that it's nice and straight. It's easy, right? So now I'm going to move on to the next piece. So the next piece, if you're looking to the right or left a little bit, you'll see that there's some delicate lines. So I'm only going to put a little bit of glue along the edges so that I can stick it down. Now I didn't put glue on those little pieces because I don't really need to glue everything down. So what I'm doing is I'm only gluing down the pieces that are sticking up a little bit or not sitting where I want it to stick. So for these, I just put a tiny dot and I use my makeshift brush to spread it around, and then I place it where I need to place it. I am using heavier cardstock in this project. I'm using 100 and plus heavy weighted cardstock, so it makes this cardstock a little bit more stiffer. If you're using lighter weighted cardstock, you may have a little bit more gluing to do here. So I'm just sticking the glue where I need it to go, and then I am done. And so this next layer right here, I'm going to do the same thing. So this one, I'm gluing these two pieces together with the intention of putting foam layer between, not these two, but between that and the other layer you just saw. So for this one, I'm just gluing down all the pieces I need to glue together like so, and then I'm going to take my little glue makeshift brush thing, and then I'm going to stick it between each one of those layers like I did before. Now if you're looking really closely at the video, you'll notice that there's some glue around the edges that it's kind of stuck there, and that's because I accidentally glued the wrong size. Sometimes when you're filming videos, you get a little bit distracted. So yeah, that's what happened. So yeah, I'm going to glue them all together. And now on those layers that I just glued together, I'm going to put foam tape on the back, and then I'm going to stick it to this piece right here. So I'm using the frame, and then I'm going to slide it in and then press everything together. So yay, there it is, another layer, and the shadow behind it, you can kind of see how it gives it more dimension. So this piece happens to have, I think there are 5 different layers on it. So for the really big pieces like this, I went ahead and I just smeared glue all around it. So I'm going to speed this up to 6 times, and you're going to see the process of gluing these layers. So there's 1 layer, 2 layer, and then the 3rd layer is right here. I'm just gluing them all together because it made sense for all these layers to lay flat against each other. I think I forgot to show myself gluing the white layer, but that's okay. I think you guys get the point where we're just gluing all these pieces because they look better flat. So now this piece has large areas, but it also has some really delicate pieces in the middle. So for those delicate pieces, I'm using my makeshift brush to spread a little bit of glue. And this piece right here is the top piece, and it happens to be the one with most of those really skinny lines on it. So I am taking my makeshift brush and I'm spreading glue as needed to each of the areas so they don't come up. And even though I used heavy cardstock on it, these guys were kind of hard to glue down and get in the right place. So I focused mainly on the edges to make sure that the edges of it or the lines were in the right place. Anywhere where you see the details of his robe where they're kind of squiggly lines, I didn't focus too much on those because it's a robe and it's flowy and it's pretty. So yeah, so I just went ahead and took my glue brush and glued all that was needed. It takes a little bit of time to do all this, but the result is worth it. And especially for the front of it, it was worth it as well. So I put foam tape on those layers that I glued together, and then I placed that on top of this layer right here so that it creates a nice little shadow. See the subtle little shadow behind it? It really just adds a really subtle piece of extra dimension to it instead of having a flat picture. And then I put foam tape on the back of this guy and stuck it down, and then this guy as well. So yeah, once I was done sticking all these down, sometimes it's harder when there's a big hole in the middle, as you can see. So once everything is all stuck down and it's the way that I like it, I went ahead and I plopped it into the frame. I did not plop it in the frame. I adhered it to the frame using foam tape again to put it in this paper shadow box frame, which I do have a full video on that and I'll link it down below as well. And then my framed paper art is complete. So I hope you found some of the tips helpful in this video. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Take care, guys. Have a great day. Bye.